Welcome back to the calling here in Fort Worth, Dallas, Texas. I'm Tanner Grace. This is DM Armada, and it's down to one.
One game.
One last game here in round 7 to see who's going to make it into that top 32 and get into the first draft here today. We're not going to have any more to do. Let's go ahead and move into that into that game here in round 7.
It's going to be a good one. Look at this. We've got a Briar versus another Oldhim. Oldhim sitting at 5-1. Briar sitting at 5-1. Interested to see how the Oldhim player plays this matchup, and it looks like he's got himself a nice little coat of frost with the plume of Evergrowth as well. And
absolutely, and on the Keko side, we see a couple pieces of equipment as well. And we didn't get the weapon that you wanted. Sorry, I know you've been waiting all day long.
Someone's gonna pull it in draft. Someone's gonna get the Majestic for Oldhim. We're gonna see it. Oh, coming in with the Fuse on Entangle. Gonna be a very big attack. Very scary.
And this is the one that if it hits them, their first next attack is minus 2.
Minus 2,
right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so fusing here. But he just says, I think I'll block with Sigil of Suffering. I've heard this card's good, so I'm going to use it.
I expect to see this one in Classic Constructed at some point in time.
Oh, I 100% play this in literally every Rune Blade. I think it has a place.
Yep, so that's going to put Keko down to 19 years. Going to take 1 from that Sigil. It looks like Nick is going to just pass, go back up to 4 cards, and we're back over to the Oldhim player.
Well, actually, that was first turn. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So blocking with the defense, they both, of course, draw
I'm getting
up.
ahead of myself.
Yeah, and now it's Nick's turn. Let's see what he's got going on over on the Runeblade side of things.
It's been a long day.
It's just been a few rounds. Just a few rounds. Let's see what he does. Hey, I think I know that card. I've heard of a card called Ball Lightning.
Yep, and these are usually the starts of turns that nightmares are made of.
Yeah, it looks like there's an Earthlore Surge and a Stir the Wildwood as well. Perhaps he's going to arsenal some of that to just kind of save for a later turn, but I feel like you could just go, like pitch and play a Stir into something big. Maybe he wants to string that Stir after the Ball Lightning here.
We're going to see how Nick wants to approach this to see if he wants to make another attack here. Oh, it does look like we're going to get a defensive reaction here.
Blocking 2. Oh, no, he's gonna get both effects. So the next 2 damage that would be dealt to him will not, and you have to tuck a card, Nick, as the Briar player.
The not often seen pitch both conditions and get both of the cards.
Both effects, yeah.
Both effects, where you get the prevent 2 and the card
That's
from
right.
hand.
The nice thing about using the defense reaction that prevents the next 2 is that it doesn't have to be dealt damage by the card that you're defense reacting to. It can be the, use this on the Shock Striker, which is what we see here coming across, and just prevent 2 of that damage.
Yeah, so it does look like it is going to get a little bit of physical damage, and plus it's going to activate its ability here this turn as well. So a little bit of damage here done to our Oldhim player. He's down to 13. Nick at a healthy 20 here.
Very, very large attacks that we've seen. Very tough to deal with, and it's one of those where you have to consider using the defense reaction if it's like super profitable or not. Oh, and there's the fuse on the Stir the Wildwood we saw. Coming across for, I think if this is the yellow, which it does kind of look yellow. So if this is the yellow, this is coming across for 6 right now. So requiring something like a 2-card block.
Let's see how the Oldhim player wants to approach this. He's got a card in his arsenal, but this looks like
Turn Timber as a defense reaction. Yeah, is he going to fuse it? That's the question. Paying for it, so this, I believe, it's just going to block out everything here. That does absolutely no damage because Turn Timber does have a fuse effect that gets +2 defense if you fuse it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not the biggest fan of this reactions where you have to pay, but I'm not going to lie. That one stops a lot of damage. If you're getting into a defensive spot, that is the kind of card you want in your deck.
It is the Tales of Aria equivalent of that unmovable that we've seen played from all the way back in Welcome to Wraith. It would have been interesting to see if he chooses to Coat of Frost on this turn because you need to steal back tempo, and if you choose to steal back tempo by first Coat of Frost and give a Frostbite token and then come in for 4, I believe this is coming in for 4 if my memory serves, or maybe it's only coming for 3, depending on the Entwine Earth's cost. Then either way, this is going to deal some amount of damage, and doing that with the Coat of Frost would also allow him to really steal back some tempo. Did only come across for 3.
All right, looks like we're starting the turn off with Electrify from hand here into a Ball Lightning. This is an aggressive start to a turn.
Wow. This is very dangerous.
2 resource points floating in, so this is really, really dangerous, like you said. Lots of stuff, and this looks like
Oh, he's
Mark of Lightning.
An early Mark of Lightning, which is going to ping for 2, of course, because we're playing the Mark on top of the Ball Lightning. And this is going to push all the way down to 11 already. And as a defense reaction, he's trying to react, but this is an instant sort of an effect. So this is like when it goes, it's sort of a triggered ability. And this is not something that you can react to at instant speed. You could, I think, but not as a defense reaction.
No, absolutely. So it looks like this damage is going to go through. It's going to create an embodiment of Earth token.
And now he is, I guess, pitching to block 2 of the damage. Or he already blocked technically the Ball Lightning, so. Perhaps pitching to use the defense reaction so that it can help him protect himself from another Stir the Wildwood.
And this one's also fused itself, so this is a really big attack as well from Arsenal here.
Gosh, and this is such a good sequence, too, because this is going to allow him to Arsenal a Burgeoning, which when he plays next turn, he's going to get +1 on that Burgeoning. So fantastic sequencing right here. This is exactly what you want to do as in Nick's position to try and get yourself to 6-1.
Yeah, we're seeing some of the really powerful Earth cards from Briar, which is much Briar as we've seen today. We haven't actually seen a ton of the Earth side, and these are the cards that really get the stuff done. Stir of the Wildwood, Burgeoning, things like that. Really get these big, big attacks in.
Yeah, I think your hybrid Briar that's playing early big attacks that makes your opponent really overblock and try to protect some of that life total and like bleed their life total down. Then pivot over to the, I'm just going to kind of arcane you down with the last couple of points. That's the very dangerous version of Briar that I think we've seen most today. So let's see where they go from here. Got a full grip on Kiko's side. I believe he passed over, which is allowing him to draw those cards. And this is the moment where you have to decide as the person who just arsenaled Burgeoning, do you want your turn to just be Burgeoning? Because if your turn is just Burgeoning, maybe that still puts on some pressure. But you want to try and close this game out and not give up any tempo. And it looks like maybe you don't play the Burgeoning.
Yeah, it looks like we're starting with an Invigorate here.
Now there's 2 thoughts here. You just play the Invigorate to get it out. And then exactly what you do, you just get rid of the Burgeoning so that you can arsenal whatever card you have left. That's one line of play. If you have 2 non-attacks, you can play the 2 non-attacks with Go again and then play the Burgeoning, so that you can get an Embodiment of Lightning token and then have some sort of combo after Burgeoning.
I see Kiko wants to take a swing at defending against this. He's been kind of on his back heels a lot here over these last 2 turns. It does look like this is going to be a double block. Looks like a Thump and a Glacial Footsteps.
Yeah, you hate to block with both of those, but you know in this phase, and he's going to attack, react, and give Go again to this. Floating a resource, pitching the last card so that he can Rosetta Thorn 2 and 2.
Yeah, and this is what we've been talking about. We've seen some of the Briar players that have been successful against the Oldhim decks is doing turns like this where you're guaranteeing some damage gets through, but the Arcane is really, really important because the attacks are generally getting blocked from the Oldhim player, but this Arcane gets through and puts Kiko down to 8 with not a lot of cards left to use. And it looks like this is going to be a pitch for 3.
And this one does attack for 4 here, so that's going to be nice that you pitch the 3 like you said and then attack for 4, so you are putting on some counter pressure. Again, this is one of those moments where Code of Frost might come in handy because you're trying to steal cards from your opponent who's at a huge life total, and you're also trying to make the turn just harder for them.
Absolutely. It looks like Nick's going to take this.
Take it.
Yeah, he's going to move into a turn with just a full hand here and try to keep pushing more and more pressure on him. Now, Kiko is going up to 4 cards, does have a card in his arsenal, so if he cannot get beat down too hard this turn, he might be able to start making some headway in this game, but Nick has kind of just been having his way.
Yeah, I think we have a Weave Lightning in hand, and that plus anything like a Weave Earth or some other big attack, it just makes it, and it's going to be a Rites of Lightning fused, so it deals a point of Arcane, and it's going to get the Go again.
Yep, some resource points left over. This is going to be a really good setup turn again for the Briar player. If they want, they can follow up with Rosetta Thorn here as well and get some damage in there, and then kind of arsenal the card left over so it gains Go again next turn as well. So,
and this is Rites of Lightning, so it's coming across for 3, but there is a buff from the Entwined Lightning as well. And that buff from Entwined Lightning is going to definitely matter because that puts it over the breakpoint, and that breakpoint is scary. You don't want to see that breakpoint.
It looks like the Arcane went across, giving Kiko down to 7 and an Embodiment of Earth token over to Nick. And this looks like a
look
Turn
at this.
Timber.
There you go. Turn Timber is going to stop that attack. Basically dead in its tracks. You don't even really need to fuse here, but he is going to pitch and block the next 2.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be able to take away the 2 from
The Arcane,
the Thorn
that's right.
here
Yep.
as well.
And then he blocks the Thorn with a So Tomorrow.
Absolutely good turn here from Kiko. He's not going to get much done with his hand. He's
No.
going to have to pass, but he didn't take any extra damage from a big turn here from Nick. Nick, though, lots of options to him here. He's got 4 cards in his hand, and we know the card in his arsenal can attack along with Go again as well here. So we're going to see how big of a turn can he put together.
It's very scary to give Briar a lot of 5-card hands and a lot of tempo because they can just roll you out of the game with 5-card hands because of all these powerful attacks. They're all so cheap too that they all stack up so cheaply. So it's definitely one of those scenarios where if you're playing against a Briar early, you have to find some way to steal cards out of their hand to rip them out and really threaten some dangerous stuff. Because if you don't, we just get into this scenario where you just can't stop all of this varied forms of damage when you can't pitch to prevent Arcane.
Now, I was going to ask a question here, but it looks like we're getting our turn started here. This looks like
that's a Bramble Spark.
It's a Bramble Spark. It's being fused. Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a resource point left over here. It's a So Tomorrow.
Making the embodiment of lightning to give Go again, which is going to be very powerful for him. He's going to go and fetch from Graveyard. Let's see what he decides to sink to the bottom of his deck off of So Tomorrow. Think an Earth or an Elemental attack, and that Stir the Wildwood he's looking at is good, but Burgeoning is also very good.
Burgeoning just, I think, on average is going to be a little better later because you're going to be able to find it to put it in your arsenal. You don't have to have a card to fuse it, so you're not using multiple cards there. And this looks like a big attack here.
Okay, so this is going to gain Go again automatically from the Embodiment of Lightning token, and it's getting a buff from the... we can't quite tell which Bramble Spark that is, so we don't know how much of a buff it's getting. But either way, this is going to come across for Arcane, and the Runaways is going to help prevent some of that. I believe he took damage.
Yeah, he went down to 6 here. Let's see how much more it's going to be all total. Plus, there's an attack coming from the arsenal, too, here this turn. Unless Nick wants to just hold that for a big turn as well. Yeah, it looks like we're going to have a block of the physical damage with a mulch from hand here from Kiko.
Blocking with the mulch, stopping, after you take that Arcane, stopping a little bit of that damage. So this currently blocks 4. Which is probably what he's looking at if that's a blue. So it usually attacks for 1, and then if that's a red Bramble Spark, then that would be attacking for 4, so blocking 4 here. Then I guess considering other possible defense reactions he could pitch for, maybe to prepare against that Rosetta Thorn, which you do have to consider every single turn when you're at this life total. And it's just going to be the Lightning Surge from Arsenal, so it's, I'm guessing 4, maybe it's less, but it does have Go again because it came from Arsenal.
Yeah.
I love seeing the explosive growth here on this turn because we haven't seen explosive growth this entire tournament. Like, explosive growth has just not shown up, so it's nice to see it make its appearance. Absolutely.
Let's say a card that can be pretty important in some of these builds. A lot of ways to get physical and arcane damage through. Does a lot of things in these big attacks. We haven't seen it as much now.
Hey,
this looks like
look
we
at
got
this.
attack
We got the double pitch here to attack with the weapon for 4, Titan's Fist for 4.
And it's about time that Kiko gets to do another attack. It's been about once every 2 to 3 turns here.
That's true. Again, I'd still like to see the use of like Code of Frost to really try and slow your opponent down because they may draw into a red heavy hand, and that's kind of what we see, I think.
I completely agree with you here. I actually think over the last couple turns, there's a good spot for him to maybe start off the turn with that, just to get that 1 Frostbite token in play, because we said that can be the difference in a whole card being played for a turn from Nick. And you might have to pitch a card for resources instead of fusing, and that can stop a lot of things and maybe steal you back some of the tempo in this game. That's what Kiko really, really needs. So he's going to clean up everything here, draw to 4, have a card in his arsenal, and this is Nick's moving really fast here. So this is going to be a Bramble Spark.
Fused,
Fused, and then I see a Singeing Steel Blade in his hand here.
Oh, he's just going to play the Autumns.
Oh, we're just going to attack for a lot.
Yeah, if that's a red Autumn's Touch, then this is coming across for 10. Well, no, it depends on the Bramble Spark, which looks like just a blue, so maybe this pushes 8 and an Arcane.
And it looks like the Arcane has been accepted, so Kiko's down to 5.
It's quite hard to tell if it's a yellow, perhaps.
There's that one spot on the table.
Yeah,
we need to tell them not. We need to put a red X there or something like no cards here.
Just going to triple block this, try to keep your life total as high as possible. And again, you keep maybe a blue card that costs 3, and you just Titan's Fist. This is a way to claw back in the game and try to get something going, but it It kind of hinges upon your opponent just running out of threats, perhaps, which his deck is looking very low, or running out of, just like hitting a couple of bad cards and bad hands in a row, perhaps. He's going to block here, take 1, and in doing so, drops him to 11. You're still at 5 as Keko, so perhaps you can get something going. Oh, we have the Entwine Earth coming across. No fuse here, but if that's the red Entwine Earth, it's still attacking for 6. If it's not, if it's yellow, it's 5, and perhaps you can deal with that a little bit better.
And this is one of the turns that Keko might be able to get something together. If he can double block from here, it's going to leave him with 2 cards in his hand plus the card in arsenal. Maybe we get a big attack here or something that moves him forward. Yeah, so here we go. We got the double block here with String Sequoia and a Thump.
Block 6, and then now we might get to see what's his arsenal card. Like, what's been in arsenal these past few turns?
What's in the box?
Nope, we're not going to find out. It's just Titan's Fist. Spoiler alert, it's just Titan's Fist.
This Titan's Fist is relentless, but it doesn't look like Titan's Fist is going to attack here. We're still looking to pay the cost here. Oh, well, maybe not. And I see a Sigil over in Nick's hand. That's big here.
That's exactly right. Oh, he's going to Winter's Bite first. I love Winter's Bite. You play the Winter's Bite, you say you can either pitch 2 resources or you can just discard a card. Whichever you choose to do, it's still going to leave you with 3 cards on your turn. And obviously you want to save that Sigil of Suffering because it does represent 1 ping arcane damage that your opponent can't deal with anymore because of runaways. So you're basically trying to set up a turn wherein you can deal 1 here, drop Keko to 4, and then come across for something that just does a little bit extra.
Does look, I think, that he's going to pay here. These cards are always so awkward to play against.
I love Winter's Bite. This is a card that really just is bad for your opponent. And now he finally comes in with the attack for just 3 because Icy Encounter does actually. And so there's the block with the singeing, or with the Sigil, excuse me.
Yeah, and that's going to block out and deal a point down to Keko. So Keko's down to 5 here. Nick is going to have the Arsenal pass and draw up, it looks like here.
I think he's going to knock down to 4, which is really, really low. Yeah. Really scary.
I think I saw a Thump in this hand that was drawn up by Keko, another card that it's going to need a lot of cards in his hand to make valuable, so it's going to be hard. And here we go. Here's another turn that...
A yellow Rites of Replenishment, so attacking for 5.
Attacking for 5. Not getting any of the extra stuff out of getting a card onto the bottom of his deck, which these are cards that I find can be very important in this kind of matchup because it helps you not run out of things. You can put some more stuff on the bottom of your deck to keep it going later in the game.
Looking at his deck, he needs actually the recursion. He's not getting the recursion here, and there are so many more cards in the Oldhim player's deck. So if he can, and look at this, it's getting really down to it.
Is this an Oaken Old?
It's an Oaken Old, but he's not going to fuse it. So this is just 7, coming across for 7. But the reason Oaken Old is solid in this format is because it's still just a 7 for 3. And that's great.
And so this is actually getting to the point where Nick he's got to start thinking about his life total. He doesn't have an extra block here with an Embodiment of Earth.
Yep.
And the thing is anything he blocks with here is not going to be able to attack with, so he's running low on resources. We might be seeing Keko kind of turning the corner here a little bit.
It's very close. He has the capacity to do that over the next turn or 2 if he can avoid too many more arcane triggers. And this is the double card block here, and so that he can play the Singeing Steelblade, which we saw a moment ago in his hand. And we'll find out if he actually does have enough arcane. Oh, you know what? He may have the arcane.
Yeah, this is a lot of extra damage here. So this is fuse, so it's going to put Keko down to 3.
Yep.
Is this the turn that puts Nick Zimmerman into 6-2 here? We'll have to find out.
There's no go again here, and he doesn't have the capacity to give go again based on the cards we've seen. We know there's a Singeing in his hand, and we know he's probably going to arsenal that so that he can put it in to play next turn. Here you just block out all physical. At this point, you're in that phase where you're just going to block out all physical if you can.
It does look like he's going to activate Oldhim's defensive reaction here.
And that's interesting because at this point, you're probably just sinking the card that you weren't going to use anyway and then arsenaling the Singeing like you were going to do, yeah.
Yep.
And so it's almost like you didn't have to do that as Oldhim, but of course we're playing with different information. Pitching a blue card to attack for 3. We're never going to see that Arsenal card. What is it?
He's going to tease us the whole time and never going to let us know. This is an attack, and you got to start worrying a little bit, Nick. Your life total is getting a little low. You're down to 9. You do have the Singeing Steelblade that we've been talking about in Arsenal kind of set up to get some more arcane damage through, but it seems like you're going to need to finish this game off of arcane damage the way it's going.
It's very possible that he tries this Burgeoning or Autumn's Touch play. If either of those are yellow or red, you may just consider doing that instead and try and bait the Oldhim player into taking 1 point of damage so that you can then make it even easier to just jam down 2 arcane sources. But you just, at this point, if you're Oldhim, you can never try to take arcane damage if you can avoid it.
So it does look like he is going to be taking arcane damage here from the Singeing Steel Blade. He's going to be going down to 2.
Yep.
Let's see if he's going to be able to block enough of this physical to stay alive. I got to believe he's got a few cards in his hand that he can pitch to this.
Yeah, he's definitely going to throw some down and block this physical damage. I don't think you can ever take any of this. Even if it's just 1 leaks over the top, you can't do it. And we really want to see the Code of Frost get used on the Oldhim player's side of things.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to be double blocking here. No go again set up here from Nick.
Thinking about what he wants to arsenal, I think he's got several great options. The burgeoning makes the most sense. Arsenaling a burgeoning seems like a really good play overall. Oh, he's going to pitch his own burgeoning as Oldhim to trigger the block the next 2 arcane. But it's not even 2 arcane, it's just 2 damage. But you didn't have to worry too much about that because that was not on the table.
And there's not many cards left in Nick's deck. I think he's got 1 draw left after this.
It's really down to these last few threats. And we'll find out if he has the ability. Like, for example, that looks like an Arcanic Shockwave. It looks like he has 1 in hand, but it also looks like he doesn't have a Lightning
I think I see a Singeing Steel Blade at the top of his hand here, too.
Oh, you know what? That is a Singeing, and that is an Arcanic Shockwave with a Lightning card in hand. So if he can give, over the next 2 turns, 2 points of Arcane, he can close it out.
We know that that's pretty much going to need to happen here if he's going to want to win this. This is getting tense.
I think it may be down to just a clock scenario. Over the next 2 turns, he may have a guaranteed win if he can just deal 1, and the next turn, Singeing, deal another 1. It's going to be up to Keko to play some sort of end game card here.
He needs to play something with a big attack. We need like a 10 attack, a 9, an 8, like a big Glacial Footsteps, something along those lines.
Anything that gains dominate.
Oh, absolutely.
If you can dominate an attack, perhaps you can just close it out.
And I am worried about his ability to do so. Early in the game with a lot of the blocks there, we saw a lot of Glacial Footsteps have to put that. We saw a lot of thumps, getting into the block, and so they're in his discard pile here. So
he is pitching again to try and stop that, but there's no go again, so pitching here doesn't actually provide, anything. If you could somehow play an instant that Delta Arcane, then it would make a lot of sense, but I think he's doing it out of just preservation. This is probably not going to cut it at this point.
Yeah,
that is a Singeing Steel Blade, so it's down to this. If for some reason you can't block this Autumn's Touch, then you would die here, but I think Keko is going to see that and give the fist bump across the table. There it is. Yep, that closes out the game.
Yeah, well fought by Keko. I thought he was on the back foot from a really early position and almost got to the point where he fully turned this game around. That was an actually really well-played game by Oldhim, but it just came down to the point that the Briar player had 1 too many arcane instances to be able to finish the game.
It was literally down to 1 more cycle of the Briar player's deck, it looked like. He was that close to literally fatiguing him out, keeping him from dealing that. But it's just that little bit of arcane at the end. I think that's what's been so telling for all of these Briar players. Come in early with large earth attacks that are fused or maybe that are made large from like Entwine Earth, things like that. And then after you've bled a lot of their life out, then you just count how many cards beforehand in your deck you have that deal Arcane, and then just clock them. Clock them on Arcane. That's
Absolutely.
What we've seen.
So that's gonna move Nick with his Briar deck up to 6-1 and guarantee him into the draft that's actually going on right now, which we can hear. And Kiko's going to move down to 5-2, but with this late of a loss, as long as his other loss was in round 1 or 2, I believe that's going to move him. I mean, don't quote me on this, but it's probably going to make his tiebreakers good enough to be one of those 5-2s that's lucky enough to make it into the second part of day 1 here, which is the draft. Now, that's going on right now, so what's going to happen is we're going to have to take a little bit of a break, and then when we come back, we'll have the first rounds of those draft games, and I'm super excited to see this, to see what people are coming, because I got to see we're going to see a lot of really good Lexi, a lot of really good Oldhim decks, and then we're going to see people kind of have really hyper-focused decks, so I'm really excited to see how great that's going to be. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with a little bit more Flesh and Blood.